Tonight on the MTN 10 o'clock news, 1 week after the brutal killing of a Rocky Mountain College football player, the teens accused in his death face their fate.
You wish to enter a plea of not guilty, is that correct?
And the details coming from the crime, including how 14 gunshots were fired, changing the course of the night. Plus, parents pleading over this rise in gang activity.
I'm just literally in shock at some of the things that these kids are saying and doing.
As more violence involves teenagers, we'll take a look at the impact our schools have. And get ready to turn those clocks back. It's that time of year again, daylight saving time. But why now? It's more important than ever to shed light on mental health. The MTN 10 o'clock news starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Friday night. I'm Andrea Lutz. After a week of deadly events in Billings, 2 teenagers face the consequences in the death of a Rocky Mountain College football player. Tonight, we're learning what led to those shots being fired, where suspects allegedly gunned down the victim, taking his life on a popular Billings road. Our David J. was in court today and has more on who these teens are and what prosecutors say they did.
2 teens appeared in court, both pleading not guilty in the fatal shooting of a Rocky football player. Court documents state that one of the teens admitted to driving the car, and he identified the other one as the one who shot Chandler Stallcup. On a day when most Billings teens were sitting in class, 17-year-old Garrett Jarvis Dorr and 16-year-old Sidney Cruz DeCrane Jr. were here in a courtroom facing homicide charges.
Your attorney has indicated you wish to enter a plea of not guilty, is that correct?
DeCrane pleaded not guilty to deliberate homicide. He's accused of firing the fatal shot that killed 18-year-old Chandler Stallcup.
It is in the interest of community safety to increase the bond to $1,500,000.
Dorr pleaded not guilty to deliberate homicide by accountability.
Bond is set in the amount of $1 million.
We can charge them as adults, which we did in this case, right? That's why they appeared in front of Judge Harada today. And then they'll get defense attorneys, or maybe they'll hire defense attorneys. I don't know what the situation is with regard to that. Then they can try to transfer back into youth court. And court documents are now painting a clearer picture of what led to both being placed in handcuffs. This is where police say it all started. According to police, Stallcup and 3 friends went to pick up a friend from a house party on 15th Street West where a fight had broken out. Court documents say Garrett Dorr was knocked out during that fight. Documents go on to say the shootings were in retaliation, alleging SD or DeCrane admitted to discharging a firearm roughly 14 times outside the party in the air above a crowd. There was an individual known to the victim in the case that was involved in the altercation at the house party. DeCrane told investigators that they circled the block looking for Stallcup's vehicle. They pulled up next to the vehicle on Pauley Drive, where the county attorney's office says DeCrane shot through the driver's window. Dorr admitted to driving the vehicle and said DeCrane was a shooter. In Billings, David J., MTN News.
Meanwhile, the 18-year-old victim of this tragic shooting, Chandler Stallcup, may have helped save several lives today. Stallcup was an organ donor, and his mother said today that Chandler's gift of life was used to help at least 7 people. His mom writing, quote, "He came into this world a hero and in true Chandler fashion turned a tragic situation into a memorable one by saving lives." Chandler was in his first year at Rocky Mountain College. He leaves behind his 2 parents and a sister.
Hey, good Friday evening, everyone. A nice quiet evening for the Billings area after a warmer than average day both this morning and this afternoon. Started the day at 40 degrees in Billings. That was 10 degrees warmer than average. And the daytime high, how about 11 degrees above average? But don't get used to these sunrises and sunsets much longer. This morning's sunrise was just before 8 a.m. and the sunset was just before 6 p.m. One more day of that. And then on Sunday, it's going to be an hour earlier for both of those. Do not forget to set your clock back an hour when you go to bed tomorrow night. Currently, with a few more clouds over Billings, we've actually risen 3 degrees in the last hour. It's currently 50 degrees, but not much wind, northwest of 3 miles an hour. I'll have a forecast for the weekend and next week after coming up.
Stallcup's murder is a ripple effect of Billings' growing youth gang activity. This week, Police Chief Rich St. John said an estimated 60 teens belong to gangs in our city. It's a number that has parents concerned. Our Charlie Kleps takes a look at what the school district is doing to get ahead of this violent trend.
What's even more alarming is that gang activity is now prevalent in our schools. It's a problem School District 2 is fully aware of, and a big reason why they've contracted an auditing group, which will go to 37 different district locations and find ways to improve campus security. This is a typical day in School District 2. Hallways packed with students heading to class. But some say there's much more happening in our schools than most of us ever see.
She still, for a very long time, did not feel safe. To this day, still doesn't feel like 100% safe.
That's the voice of a Billings parent who also works as a teacher in SD2. She says her daughter, a student at senior high, hasn't felt safe since recently witnessing a gun being confiscated from a student in the hallways.
I think that she knew it was here, but then to actually witness it firsthand was definitely a huge wake-up call for her.
I'm just literally in shock at some of the things that these kids are saying and doing.
Heights parent Jennifer Gordon says it isn't a situation unique to Senior. Her son was threatened by a student at Medicine Crow Middle School.
Another child came up to my son at school, told my son that he was coming over tonight to shoot up our house.
Violent threats and rising gang activity have the attention of new Superintendent Erwin Garcia.
Gang activity exists in some of our schools. In many cases is kids that are trying to begin the steps that they see in the neighborhood.
And the district is taking action. Starting Monday, an independent auditing agency will begin visiting 37 buildings throughout the district, looking for ways to improve school security.
In our school, we're not going to tolerate any type of behavior or any type of passing drugs or any type of gang activity. We need to get together and be united.
Garcia says no guns have been confiscated in Billings schools in his 3 months on the job, a statement contradicted by Police Chief Rich St. John Thursday.
We got one, maybe two off of a West High student a few weeks back.
Regardless, parents say security improvements can't come soon enough.
The majority of all those kids are sitting next to your kid in class or walking the halls, and what's going to trigger them next.
It is heartbreaking to hear about all of this. Like every other day, you hear about another shooting, and something needs to change.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps for MTN
Access
News.
to firearms isn't anything new for kids in Montana, as we've reported almost 2 years ago after numbers were released from the Montana Youth Risk Behavior Survey. Back in 2021, nearly 1 in 10 middle and high school students across Montana carried a gun within the last year. That number excludes hunting and shooting sports. The survey also showed 9.1% of students carried a weapon, such as a gun or a knife, into a school campus. The 2023 survey is expected to be released within the next few months. This week is one of the most deadly we've seen in Billings in quite some time. In less than 5 days, 3 people, including a 1-year-old baby boy, lost their lives to gun violence and gang activity. And to top it off, city leaders and police stood together to reaffirm a commitment to battling this crime uprise and an urgency that comes with it. Police Chief Rich St. John acknowledged Thursday gang activity is responsible for recent violence in Billings, and he and others called for a community-wide solution, including better storage of firearms and vehicles in homes, more jail capacity, and early intervention to escalating youth violence. In recent months, police identified 17 known adult gangs and 7 known juvenile gangs in the Billings area. An 18-hour-long standoff is finally over in Glendive, but not before it put schools in lockdown and closed major roads. Dawson County Sheriff Ross Cannon says it all started when 2 men exchanged gunfire at around 2:45 Thursday afternoon near Marsh Road. One man was treated for minor injuries, while the other then hid inside of a homestead in the area until surrendering at 8:15 this morning. The sheriff's office initially reported there were multiple victims, but have since reduced that number to just 1. Sheriff Cannon says he believes this is an isolated incident. Still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news, Americans are expected to spend more money than ever this holiday season. We're breaking down the numbers before you start shopping. And Weibo made its return to 8-man football this fall and now are in the quarterfinals. We'll show you how the Longhorns have turned back the clock to get the job done.
The MTN 10 o'clock news continues right after this. From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
For most Americans, this Sunday means the clock falls back. It means it'll get darker earlier, and it could impact your mental health. In a new survey, 1 in 5 Americans said they negatively are impacted by it, and 2/3 of adults notice at least one behavioral change from sleeping more and feeling fatigued or depressed. The poll also found women are twice as likely to say their mental health was negatively affected by the fall time change. Experts say spend more time outdoors, frequent outdoor activity, and take breaks to ward off those winter blues. And Americans are expected to spend more money than ever this holiday season. The National Retail Federation expects sales to rise by 3 to 4% in November and December. Overall, Americans are expected to spend up to $967 billion during the holiday shopping rush. That would be $30 billion more than what consumers spent last holiday season. Now let's check in with the weather with our meteorologist, Jason Stiff.
Yeah, we had some sunshine today. Temperatures were above average, but how long can that last? I'll have your forecast for the weekend as well as all of next week coming up after this.
The MTN 10 o'clock news continues right after this.